Boston Bruins lost out on Rasmus Anderson while trade candidate Mason Lohrei scores twice to extend their winning streak. Don Sweeney, maybe that's the universe telling you to just stay the course.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, a lifelong Boston Bruins fan who's been covering this team and the NHL for various outlets for nearly 20 years. Today is Monday, January 19th, and on today's podcast, we're going to discuss Boston losing out on the Rasmus Anderson sweepstakes. He was traded by the Calgary Flames to the Vegas Golden Knights on Sunday. Meanwhile, Mason Lohrei, who was widely rumored to be part of a package the Bruins were offering to the Flames, broke out with his first multi-goal game of his NHL career as the Bruins extended their win streak to 6 games. We'll discuss the trade that wasn't, and the storylines, stats, and significance of that win over the Blackhawks. Today's game is brought to you by FanDuel. The wildcard round is over, as is the divisional round. FanDuel is looking forward to the conference championships. Visit FanDuel, who's an official partner of the NFL, and grab your Profit Boost Pack every remaining NFL playoff game day. So, Friday into Saturday, there were wide rumors that the Bruins were close to a deal for Rasmus Anderson of the Calgary Flames. And I was kind of cautious with these rumors. Like I said on the podcast on Friday, as well as on social media over the weekend, rumors and reports are only that until a legit insider starts to pick it up, and Elliot Friedman on Hockey Night in Canada on Saturday did indeed confirm that the Bruins were very interested in Rasmus Anderson. They were hoping to talk contract extension with him, get that figured out before they pulled the trigger on the deal. So obviously there was something there in terms of Boston's interest and getting close to pulling off a trade. But while people were saying it was a done deal, it's not until it actually is. And on Sunday, it came out that Anderson had been traded to Vegas for 2027 first, another conditional first, and defenseman Zach Whitecloud. The Flames were intent on getting some draft capital as well as an established defenseman to replace Anderson on the blue line. Now, look, Rasmus Anderson would have been a great fit for the Boston Bruins. Right now, they have a glut of left-hand shot guys and a top 4 of Hampus Lindholm, Charlie McAvoy, Nikita Zadorov, Rasmus Anderson. Would have been pretty good, like very good in the Eastern Conference, as well as Jonathan Aspero, who's been a revelation defensively for this team, and Henry Jokiharju playing depth roles. You could spread out the top. Like right now, Aspero is playing with McAvoy. Jokiharju, Zadorov have pretty good chemistry. Lindholm, Anderson would have been a pretty sick pairing. But it's also a question of whether or not it would have been wise for the Bruins to trade for a guy who's going to be 30 soon, who will be looking for a new contract this summer, upwards of $8-9 million on a long-term deal. Is that most prudent for the Boston Bruins? And look, the Bruins see themselves as a playoff contender this season and a team that can get in, and the addition of a guy like Anderson would have stabilized the blue line for years to come, no doubt. But at the same time, maybe Don Sweeney was saved by himself by not giving up a first-round pick, even though they do have 4 over the next 2 drafts. two of their own. And then they have the Maple Leafs pick in 2026, the Panthers pick in 2027. Like, you could conceivably float one of those picks in order to try to improve the roster. And goodness knows there is room for improvement on this roster, despite the fact that they are in the midst of a 6-game winning streak. But to give up a Mason Lohrei, to give up a Matt Poitras, to give up a first-round pick for a guy who's, getting up there in his career and who will command pretty big money on a contract extension, maybe not the most prudent thing. And while he didn't get a contract extension with Vegas, it's no secret that that was his preferred destination. It's a no-tax state, so the likelihood of him signing a contract extension there, reuniting with Noah Hannafin, who he played with in Calgary, very likely. Meanwhile, Mason Lohrei, Saturday was a huge day for this guy. A, it was his 25th birthday. B, it's a siblings trip, and his sister Zoe read the lineups in the locker room before the game in just unbelievably entertaining fashion. And not only that, he lives close to Chicago, so his whole family was in attendance. A lot of friends made the trip. It's a siblings trip, 25th birthday. There's trade rumors ripping around that he's about to become a member of the Calgary Flames. And then this guy goes out and scores 2 goals to help the Bruins win their 6th straight. It was his first multi-goal game in the NHL. Just unbelievable performance for a guy who his future is uncertain with the team. He posted a Instagram post on Friday, kind of like a bunch of pictures from his Bruins tenure, made you wonder if he knew something or was anticipating kind of being traded at some point. But this guy stepped up huge. And look, I know there's a lot of criticism about his defensive game, not being as tough on the puck as you would like from a Bruins defenseman. But 2 goals in a game, not a lot of defensemen able to do that. The first one came off a pass from Hampus Lindholm, who was activated off injured reserve earlier in the day after missing 6 with an undisclosed injury. And then Lohrei scored his second on the power play in the third period, moving in from the left point and scoring on a wrist shot for a 4-2 lead. Lohrei said of the victory, it's huge. A lot of other teams are winning games, and the Bruins have to stick with it, keep climbing, put themselves in a good spot heading into the Olympic break, and then coming back, really making a push and proving to everybody that the Bruins are a playoff team. He says they all know they are, and he thinks it's just going out there every night and playing 60 minutes of good, solid hockey. And full credit to Mason Lohrei. He did that in huge spades on Saturday. And look, you compare what he's done this season to last year. We all know he was kind of that Masters Trophy front runner last year with a minus 43. This season, he is up to +6. So that's a huge difference. Plus minus is what it is. He's getting a lot of sheltered minutes, offensive zone starts. But this guy has shown some improvement. He's got 6 goals, which is a career high. He's got 21 points, 12 back of the career high that he set last season. Is he a perfect defenseman? No. Is he a prototypical Boston Bruins defenseman? No. Could the Bruins still look to move him in order to get that balance on the right side? You've got Aspero, Zadorov, Lindholm, Lohrei on the left side or left-hand shots, McAvoy, Jokiharju. They could certainly use a top 4 right-hand shot defenseman. But you have to give Mace credit for going out there amid those rumors with so many people watching, his sister getting featured as the lineup reader, and he goes out there and scores 2 big goals as the Bruins win their 6th game in a row. Sucks to lose out on Anderson. I actually would have liked to have seen him become a Bruin. Do I want Matt Poitras gone? No. Do I want Mason Lohrei gone? No. Do I want to give up a first? No. The right-hand shot market is now pretty thin, and we'll see if the Bruins look elsewhere. I still think they should be looking to trade Andrew Peeke, who remains on the roster, of course. Jordan Harris coming back soon. I still think they should look to perhaps move Victor Arvidsson, although he's looking really good on the second line right now. But again, stay the course, continue the retool, maybe add where you can, but not necessarily at the expense of two pretty good players in Poitras and Lohrei, and not giving up a first-round pick unless it's a home run win for the Bruins. So that was the big story. Of course, we'll take a look at some of the stats and the significance of the win over Chicago. Let's touch on that here as the podcast continues. FanDuel is officially in NFL playoff mode, and every game day during the playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts that you can apply to the bets you like most. Open the boost pack first thing on game day and see what boosts you want to apply. And they give you more juice on the bets you already like instead of forcing you to bet something new. Every play feels bigger, and the boosts make your bets feel that way too. You make your picks, then apply your profit boosts to go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs get rolling. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. Thank you so much again for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine. Everydayers know that we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. And if you are already listening every day, you're part of the Everydayer Club. Unofficially, it's time to now make it official. We have a new Everydayer Club around here that gives you ad-free episodes in your podcast feeds. Apple, Spotify, Pocket Cast is what I use. You also get access to the Locked On Bruins Discord channel and the Locked On Discord server where you can chat all things sports, but specifically we can start discussing or keep the conversation going on Discord about our Boston Bruins. I highly recommend you check it out. It's available at lockedonbruins.supercast.com. I'm excited to keep the conversation going. So not only did Mason Lohrei score a couple goals in this one to be named the first star of the game, but a bunch of guys chipped in offensively. Casey Mittelstadt and Pavel Zacha and Elias Lindholm all had 2 assists each. Oh, so did David Pastrnak. And then you had Victor Arvidsson scoring, Marat Husnudinov scoring, Mason Lohrei scoring, and Charlie McAvoy scoring as well. That second line is really continuing to click. You had Arvidsson from Zacha and Mittelstadt at even strength to make it 3-2. Then you had Mittelstadt with a secondary assist on the Mason Lohrei power play goal. Just a fantastic effort for this team top to bottom. And while they were outshot by Chicago 24-23, they won 1-for-1 on the power play. They kept Chicago off the board when it comes to the power play, giving up only 2 even strength goals that were scored 5-on-5 in the first period to give Chicago a 2-0 lead in this one. But the Bruins were able to erase it with 5 unanswered goals, the first coming from McAvoy, then Lohrei, Arvidsson, Lohrei, Husnudinov, and the Bruins have now won 6 straight games. And while the opposition hasn't been like super fierce for this team as of late, they're still doing what they have to do. And they have won against Detroit, who's a pretty good team. Pittsburgh, like the Bruins have been rolling pretty hard since that victory over the Edmonton Oilers on New Year's Eve. Since that game, here's how they stand in the NHL. This is going back to December 30th, since before they played that game against the Oilers. But here's how the Bruins have been playing. 9 games. They're 8-1, 16 points, an .889 point percentage, which is good for second in the NHL over that span. Only Tampa, who's gone 8-0-1, is better, a .944 save percentage. The Bruins have scored 40 goals, which is fourth most in that time, and the other teams ahead of them have scored more goals. So the Bruins, 4.44 or 4.44 goals per game over their past 9, where they're 8-1. And they've allowed only an average of 2 goals per game over that span as well, which is lowest in the NHL. So most goals per game, fewest goals allowed for the Bruins. The penalty kill, 90%. The power play is rolling at 25%, which is around... where do they stand on the power play right now? Actually, it's at 28%, which is 8th. And most importantly, they are, I guess, even when it comes to shots for and shots against, the exact mark of 28.7. So the Bruins are overall playing much better over this span than they were prior to or back in the 2025 portion of the schedule. They were regularly being outshot. They were giving up a lion's share of scoring chances and high danger chances, and that has come to earth a little bit. However, their shooting percentage is sky high. Their save percentage is best in the NHL over the last little bit. Joonas Korpisalo came up big once again in this game. He's won, 3 in a row now, and his save percentage creeping up closer to that 900 mark, where it was down to like 880 just a couple of weeks ago. He had a 917 save percentage against Chicago. His last few starts have been spectacular. Even going back to the loss to Buffalo on the 27th of December, he had a 909 save percentage in that one, 3 goals on 33 shots. He's allowed 3 goals total over his last 3 starts. 1 to Calgary, shutout of the Penguins, 2 against Chicago, and his season save percentage is now up to .895, which is better than he played last season and his best numbers since 2022-23 when he played for the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Los Angeles Kings. Jeremy Swayman has been excellent as well, and that is the key reason why the Bruins have had this resurgence. And their schedule the rest of the month and even down the stretch is very favorable. I think it was Kevin Paul Dupont who pointed out they only have a few games remaining against teams that are like clearly winning teams in the NHL. They're getting healthy. Hampus Lindholm's back. Their next games are against Dallas, Vegas, Montreal. So that's going to be a tough week coming up. But then they have the Rangers, the Predators, the Flyers, and then the 2 Florida teams heading into the Olympic break. So they have a real shot here to cement themselves as a bona fide playoff team as the Olympic break approaches. We're still a ways off from the trade deadline. It looks as though Don Sweeney is keen on adding, and we'll discuss kind of where the Bruins stand right now in the standings, the significance of that 6th straight win, and where Don Sweeney may go from here after losing out on Rasmus Anderson. All that's coming up here as the podcast continues. Have you ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit? When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites because Indeed's sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. Sponsored jobs boost your post to the people who are the best match for your role, and that really makes a difference because according to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed are 90% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/lockedon. Spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes using Indeed sponsored jobs. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions do apply. All right, what a run the Boston Bruins are on at the moment. And I do offer a bit of caution because, like I mentioned earlier, their save percentage, their shooting percentage, pretty much sky high here over that last little stretch since before that game against the Edmonton Oilers. But hey, what has happened, and the Bruins have put themselves back in a position to compete for a playoff spot. Right now, over the last, 9 games, including that one against Edmonton up until last night against Chicago or Saturday against Chicago, they have a league high 94.82 save percentage at 5-on-5, and their shooting percentage 5-on-5 is second at 14.29. You kick that over to all strengths, and the numbers are similar. The Bruins have a 93 save percentage and a 15.56 shooting percentage, all which puts them as the number one team in terms of PDO, which means, it's likely that they may fall back down to earth a little bit, especially when you consider kind of the underlying numbers. Right now, the Bruins over that stretch are still near the bottom when it comes to high danger chance differential. And when you look at expected goal differential, the Bruins in all situations are around 22nd. Their expected goals over the last 9 games, you would expect in all situations 29 for, 31 against. In reality, it is 40 for, 18 against, which puts them tops in the NHL. So they're getting more goals than expected. They're saving more goals than expected. Add it all up, and you get this pretty incredible run that the Bruins are on at the moment, which has propelled them into a playoff spot. Not only are they the first wildcard team right now in terms of total points, but if you look at the Eastern Conference and rank these teams by point percentage, the Bruins are currently 7th in the East, just slightly behind the New York Islanders. And you have right now Tampa clearly in first. We'll do the Eastern Conference power rankings more in detail tomorrow. You have the Lightning in first, followed by the Hurricanes, the Red Wings, Canadiens, and Sabres, who are on an unreal run as well. Then you have the Islanders with the Bruins ahead of Pittsburgh, Toronto, Florida, and Philly, who's lost 5 in a row, really fallen out of the playoff picture. So it looks as though at the moment, the Bruins, in order to hang on to a playoff spot, will have to hang with the Buffalo Sabres and keep up with the Canadiens, the Red Wings, Lightning, hold off the Maple Leafs and the Panthers. The Senators look pretty lost, and I don't know if they're able to really keep up at the moment. The Bruins goal differential now at plus 14. And like I said, they've got a few tough ones coming up this week. They will travel to Dallas to take on the Stars, although they are kind of reeling at the moment themselves, unable to score a lot right now. And we'll preview this game more in detail tomorrow, but they're 2-6-2 over their past 10 games, coming off losses to Anaheim, Utah, and Tampa. So maybe the Bruins are catching them at a good time, or they are perhaps due for a rebound there. Also, you have coming up later this week, the Vegas Golden Knights, who, of course, just recently acquired Rasmus Anderson. The Bruins will host them on Thursday. And then following that, the Bruins will play a huge game against the Canadiens in Boston on Saturday night. That's going to be a massive one. The Canadiens, Tampa's playing very well. Detroit's playing very well, but the Canadiens, 4 or 5 guys who are at 40 points, and they could be getting Kirby Dach as well as Patrick Laine back this season or this week as well. So that's going to be very huge for that team. I really do think they're a team to be reckoned with in the Eastern Conference. So hopefully the Bruins can keep it going against Dallas. They'll be able to match up against Rasmus Anderson and Vegas on Thursday, and then that huge game against Montreal coming up. When it comes to what Don Sweeney should do next, well, the right-hand shot defenseman market is pretty lean, and I do think that it is still an area where they need to improve. Even if you get Andrew Peeke back, you're looking to move him at some point. Maybe you recall Victor Soderstrom at some point to see if you have something there, but it's just a long-term need for this team behind Charlie McAvoy. Huge gap between him and Joki Harju. Mason Lohrei played on the right side the other night, getting those 2 goals, but that's probably not a long-term solution. So I guess it does make sense to look to flip Lohrei for a more established right-hand shot defenseman, but adding a first, adding Matt Poitras only kind of made sense if there was going to be a contract extension, and still then it was like maybe not, because even if the Bruins do get into the playoffs, it's going to be a tough road for any team, really. And there's still a chance that they might fall back down to earth a little bit here and drop down. Once the Olympic break is over, March actually looks pretty competitive, or pretty not easy, but they got games against the Penguins, the Predators, Capitals. There's winnable games there on the schedule. This team could very well make a push, as Mason Lohrei is looking to do. But I still do think they should look to sell Arvidsson, Peeke, some other guys who, like an Asimont or Corrali even, guys who could be valuable depth pieces for contending teams. So there's an opportunity to improve, to still get some picks, prospects for the future, but also perhaps to flip guys who may not fit into the long-term plan for more stable production at those key areas. They still need a long-term solution in Victor Arvidsson's spot on the second line. They got to decide on Casey Middlestat and Pavel Zacha. They need that right-hand shot defenseman. So we'll see. It's going to be very interesting what the Bruins do after losing out on Anderson, and with some of those clear needs and opportunities to sell as well. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to Locked On Boston Bruins today. I appreciate you everydayers. Please do subscribe on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube if you have not done so already. Tomorrow we'll preview the game against the Stars, update the power rankings. Please do follow along on social at Locked NHL Bruins, specifically TikTok and Instagram, where you get some bonus reels. And if you're never missing an episode already, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Bruins ad-free, members-only Discord, access, and more. Head to lockedonbruins.supercast.com to join the club. If you're on video, check out the 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, check out the Locked On NHL Game Night presentation. All the latest from around the NHL. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day. Please do take care of yourselves, friends. Take care of each other. And we'll talk to you again here on the next episode of Locked On Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day.